Welcome to another body management video with me, Tanya Ross. In this video, I'm going to lead you through a stretch for the gastrocnemius muscle. It doesn't always just roll off the tongue, but it's sometimes shortened to gastroc, but it's the calf muscle. If you like the outer, the more superficial of the calf muscles. So where, if for example, if you're looking at a very defined calf, it's where there's the two heads just up there, and then it starts to move down into the Achilles. So it's the more superficial of the two that we're targeting with this stretch. And you have a couple of different positions that we can go through to bring you into the stretch. Certainly if you haven't watched our how to stretch video, check it out because that will explain everything in a little bit more detail. But with this as a stretch, what I want you to do is bring your feet around about hip distance apart, and you're going to take the leg that you want to stretch behind you. It's important that the toes are pointing straight ahead initially so that we're getting, if you like, up the center line of the calf area. And I know there's two heads, they're sitting slightly to one side, so we can kind of deal with that in a moment. But for now, toes pointing straight ahead, the heel is planted on the ground. If the heel comes off, you've shortened the muscle, you're not going to feel a stretch. So you're actively driving your heel into the floor. Now, if you think about pulling up with your core, that in essence you're trying to pull up through the front of the hip bone and pressing forwards, you're going to feel that a little bit into the front of the hip as well. And that's fine to do that. That's another option, rather than kind of taking it into a bit of an arch on the back, because you're going to feel the stretch, but it's not as good for your back. So whenever you take it through, you're trying to just dip in. You don't want that knee shooting over the ankle, so you can adjust that forward leg so that your knee's roughly above the ankle. I'm still actively pressing down through my heel, and as I'm going through that position, I'm trying to establish, where do I feel the stretch? How strong does that feel? And if I can get it to a level that feels somewhere in between that 5 to 7 out of 10, you're hitting it about right, and you hold it and you wait for it to ease. If you don't know what to do with your hands, you do whatever you want, but maybe resting them on your hips is a nice place to go. So you're holding, you're waiting for that to ease, but you're still always actively pressing down through the heel. If that eases, you can increase it, taking the knee a little bit further forward, still actively pressing down to see if you can get that release. Now the other option to increase this a little bit more would be to do it against the wall. So you can pop your hands against the wall about shoulder height, and you're exact same position, around about hip distance apart with the feet for balance. The heel on the back foot is directly behind, and then you're leaning, again, exactly the same, knees coming over. It's not so much of an importance that the knee goes over the ankle this time, because your hands are leaning against the wall, and as you take that knee forwards, you're still driving the heel down on the back leg, but you can push into the wall. So if you imagine if I push into the wall, it's pushing back at me, it pushes the force down through that heel. So it helps me, rather than me having to use all my own strength to keep the heel down, that push against the wall drives the heel down. So it can help you, if you do this stretch and you don't get it up to that 5 to 7, when you push into the wall, that will help you bring it up higher on that scale. And again, you just hold it and you wait for that idea of the melting. Now certainly, whenever we go through this stretch, center line is a good place to be. But you can vary it, as long as you make sure that whenever you're varying it, you don't feel any other sort of joint strain, anything creeping in that doesn't feel good in another area of your body. But for example, if I was going to stretch that right one, if I was to angle it very slightly as I take it into the position, I might feel that just in a slightly different area. And the same if I turn it in very slightly as I come forward, allowing my hips still to move towards the wall, still trying to press down through the heel, and again pushing in through the wall. And what this also does, which is quite important in terms of ankle mobility, it brings compression into the front of the joint. So rather than just being in a center line, it also kind of takes it into various lines, because we move in all different directions. We want good mechanics, but sometimes we will drift across. That's just the nature of how the mobility lets us move. So sometimes it's good to offer that compression to different angles, as well as trying to reach into the different angles at the back of the calf as well. So I hope you find this useful, and I hope that you get ease in it. Just know that when you're stretching into the calf, the Achilles is super tight, it has to be. So whenever you're stretching, you might not feel the same release as you get in other areas. And sometimes you either need to hold it for longer if you're particularly tight, if there's been an issue, especially if you're post-surgery. But make sure you're getting advice on that before you just launch into just doing any random videos. But in terms of whenever you're stretching, then you always abide by those rules in the how to stretch video to keep it safe. But you're trying to take it to the tolerable level, maybe doing it more than once. Achilles, sometimes you may have to repeat it 3 times, as well as having those potential 3 increases within each stretch. And that way then hopefully you start to feel an ease coming into that area. Very important, especially if you run, even if you cycle, even if you swim, if you're doing any of those sorts of sports or anything jumping based, really important to stretch those areas out every time you've trained. So I hope you find this useful. Click like below. We'd love to know any comments as well. So any other content that you'd like to see, just let us know, and click subscribe. That way then whenever we upload content, if you've clicked onto the notifications, then you'll get the little bell to let you know. So yeah, get cracking on your calf stretch, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thank you for watching.